Hi, I'm Nate, 23, and the day I vanished started with a dinner toast to my sister's luxury cruise and ended with me walking away from everything I ever knew. They gave her a $28,000 luxury cruise through the Mediterranean, complete with a suite on the upper deck, private chef, spa credits, and a bon voyage party with catered sushi and monogram towels. Me? I got a $10 Starbucks gift card in a crooked envelope and a pat on the back like a damn intern. "We know you don't like big trips," Mom said, like she wasn't rewriting history in real time. I stood there with my lukewarm coffee coupon and smiled while they laughed and posed for Instagram in front of the rented champagne fountain. You'd think that was the first time they did something like that, but no. This was just the loudest version of a pattern that had been my entire life. My sister, Haley, got confetti and first-class perks for existing. I got lectures about being grateful and not comparing blessings. When we were kids, she got horseback riding lessons and a pony-themed birthday party with a Rio pony. I got a hand-me-down bike in a rainstorm. Senior year, she crashed her first car, a brand new Jeep they surprised her with, and 2 weeks later they replaced it. I got a '97 Corolla with a cracked windshield and a warning not to be ungrateful because a car is a privilege. Haley once forgot Mother's Day completely, and Mom cried tears of joy when she posted a late photo saying, "Love you, Mom. I bought flowers, cleaned the whole house, made dinner, and they forgot to mention me in the family group chat recap." So no, it wasn't about the cruise. It was the straw that punched a hole straight through the dam. I remember that night clearly. The lights were dimmed, soft jazz playing from Dad's Spotify celebration playlist. My aunt was sobbing about how proud she was of Haley, like she had discovered the cure for aging instead of just finishing college. Dad gave a whole speech about how our girl deserved the world. And I swear to God, not a single person at that table noticed I hadn't said a word in over 30 minutes. When Mom handed me the Starbucks card, I turned it over slowly like I might find a check taped to the back or a joke that made it all make sense. But no. Just a $10 balance and a sticker of a smiling coffee cup that said, "Enjoy." Enjoy what? I excused myself, grabbed my coat, and walked out the front door. No one stopped me. No one asked if I was okay. I left behind a roast lamb dinner, a pyramid of macarons, and my entire family. And I didn't look back. I didn't have a destination in mind. Just a backpack, a phone, and the kind of rage that doesn't burn, it smolders. Quiet, controlled. Dangerous. I drove until my gas tank hissed at me and pulled into a rest stop somewhere in upstate New York. I sat in the car for a full hour, just staring at the glowing green numbers of my dashboard clock, trying to process what had just happened. Eventually, I checked into the cheapest motel I could find, $52.99 a night, no breakfast, buzzing light overhead like a mosquito in my brain, and I opened my laptop. I'd been working on something in secret for months. A travel startup for underrepresented students, people like me, who didn't get surprise cruises and hand-delivered opportunities. Just a rough prototype, some pitch decks, a blog post I never published. But that night? I went all in. I didn't sleep. I barely blinked. I worked like a man with something to prove and no audience to clap for him. And weirdly, that felt better than any applause. By sunrise, I had a landing page up and a short explainer video I filmed in the motel bathroom, because it was the only place with decent lighting. I named it Freeroamer. I launched it on Reddit, Indie Hackers, LinkedIn. I tagged travel equity forums and small business groups. No budget. No connections. Just grit and a post that started with, "If you've ever been told you don't deserve the world, this is for you." It blew up. Okay, not viral, but I woke up from a 2-hour nap to 400 upvotes, 73 DMs, and an email from someone named Lena Cho, a director at a social entrepreneurship accelerator. Her message said, "Can we talk? I love what you're doing." 3 days later, I pitched her on Zoom from the back booth of a diner using borrowed Wi-Fi and the last 6% of my phone battery. By the end of the call, I had a mentor, a micro grant of $5,000, and a meeting lined up with a rep from a student access foundation. I didn't cry. Not yet. But something cracked open inside me. Not pain. Not pride. Just possibility. Back home, My phone was a museum of missed calls. Mom. Dad. Even Haley, who texted, "You good?" with a crying laughing emoji like this was a bit I'd run too long. I didn't reply. They still didn't get it. They thought I was sulking, nursing my bruised ego over a coffee card. What they didn't know was that I'd just traded their table for my own. And this time, I wasn't asking for a seat. I was building the whole damn banquet. The first time I saw my name on a banner, I was standing in the back of a community center gymnasium in Boston, sandwiched between two folding chairs and a snack table of stale biscotti. Nate Garrison, founder of Freeroamer, keynote speaker. It was printed in thick block letters under a giant poster of a world map, and I had to fight the urge to laugh. A year ago, I was begging my advisor to read my grant proposal. Now, I was being asked to speak to a room full of teachers, guidance counselors, and nonprofit leaders about how to give underrepresented students a shot at global experiences. And the best part? I wasn't just talking theory, I was funding it. That $5,000 grant had turned into a pilot program. One semester later, we'd sponsored 7 students to study abroad. Not cruises. Not Instagram vacations. Real opportunities, language immersion in Seoul, marine biology research in Cape Town, social justice internships in Lisbon. I built a network of partner schools, recruited volunteer mentors, and teamed up with a handful of low-cost travel orgs who were tired of the same kids getting all the breaks. The impact was small, but it was real. And more than that, it was mine. But just when I thought I had emotionally outrun my past, the universe yanked the cord. Haley showed up. Not physically, at first. It started with a tag on Instagram. A picture of her sitting on a rock in Santorini, the caption, "Missing this view. But proud of my brother for creating something beautiful." At freeroamer_org. My inbox exploded. New followers. New messages. But also, a call from her. I let it go to voicemail. "Hey Nate. I know we haven't talked. I know I was part of the problem. I saw what you're doing, and I wanted to say I'm sorry. And I'm proud of you. Like actually proud, not performative proud. Call me if you ever feel like it." It was the most sincere thing I'd heard from her in a decade. And it messed me up. Because for years I had convinced myself she was the villain. But she wasn't. She was just a golden child who didn't know her spotlight burned everyone else. I didn't call her back. Not yet. But I didn't delete the message either. A week later, my parents finally found me. They showed up at the Freeroamer office, which, if you can call it that, was 2 rented rooms above a laundromat that reeked of fabric softener and ambition. I knew they were coming the moment our intern, Ty, poked his head in with an expression that said, "So, your past is here," with latte breath and awkward smiles. They didn't recognize me at first. Not just the beard or the button-down or the way I didn't flinch when Dad started a sentence with, "Son." They didn't recognize how calm I was. Mom said, "We've been worried. We didn't know how badly we hurt you." Dad tried to give me an envelope. "It's what we spent on Haley's cruise. $28,000. We want to give it to you. For whatever you want." I didn't open it. I didn't even touch it. "I don't want your money," I said. "I wanted your respect. But I've got something better now, I've got mine." They didn't argue. They didn't cry. They just stood there like tourists in a place they never thought I'd be strong enough to build. And for once, I didn't feel like I had to shrink to make them comfortable. The article dropped on a Monday. From $10 gift card to global access, how one discarded kid built a movement. It wasn't clickbait, it was the truth. The journalist, Amira from Next Gen Impact, had spent 3 weeks shadowing me and the Freeroamer team. She sat in on our brainstorming sessions, interviewed the students we funded, and watched me eat so many peanut butter protein bars she joked about doing a side piece on my dietary decisions. But the real story she captured? The before and after. The boy who sat silent while his sister got a cruise and the man who stood on stages giving underserved youth their own tickets to the world. That week, my life detonated in the best way. We got featured in 2 major education podcasts, landed a meeting with the Global Youth Exchange Board, and had our first viral campaign, #RoamWithUs, trending on TikTok, thanks to a high school student in Wisconsin who documented her first ever flight experience like it was a moon landing. My inbox was a bonfire of inquiries, teachers, donors, reporters, even a couple of government program reps sniffing around for partnerships. I couldn't keep up. We hired 3 more staffers. We moved into a bigger space, this time above a co-op bookstore with creaky floors and way too many cats. But it was ours. And right in the middle of that chaos, Haley called again. This time, I picked up. She didn't launch into apologies. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She just said, "I want to help." I didn't say no. She came by the office a week later. No designer bag, no high heels, just jeans, sneakers, and a printout of grant research she'd done. "There's funding in California for first-gen travel students. You qualify." I highlighted it. I stared at the paper. Not because of what was on it, but because of who had brought it. For the first time in our lives, my sister wasn't the golden child. She was just Haley. My sister. Trying. I nodded. "Thanks." We sat on the roof of the bookstore after hours, eating street tacos and talking about stuff we never touched before. The time she saw our mom throw out my scholarship letter because it wasn't Ivy League. How she never told me because she thought I already knew. The truth was, we both grew up in the same house, but only one of us ever got to feel at home in it. "I used to think love was measured in stuff," she said, brushing hot sauce off her chin. "Turns out it's not. It's in who shows up. And you showed up for people who don't even know your name yet." I didn't cry. I'm not that kind of guy. But I looked at her and said, "You're showing up too." The next day, she sent me a proposal. A new arm of FreeRoamer, focused on creating affordable local travel experiences for students who couldn't leave the country. She wanted to run it. On her own dime. I sent it to the board. Unanimous yes. That weekend, we both got matching tattoos, tiny paper airplanes behind our ears. "No more cruises," I said as the needle buzzed. "Only lift-off." The invitation came printed on thick ivory cardstock, tucked inside a gold envelope like it was a wedding. It wasn't. It was a dinner, hosted by my parents. Just us. It read. No speeches. No pressure. Just family. Please come. I almost tossed it. Almost. But something in me paused. Not forgiveness. Not curiosity. Just readiness. I was no longer that kid counting coffee gift cards and wondering if love was rationed out based on how well I smiled for the family photos. I had nothing left to prove. So I went. The house looked the same. Too clean, too symmetrical, like it had been curated by an AI obsessed with beige. But this time, I walked through the front door not as their son but as someone who'd built a life without them. Haley was already there, setting the table. She nodded like, "You okay?" I nodded back. It was enough. Dinner was quiet. Strange. Real. For once, nobody was performative. No cameras. No champagne. Just grilled salmon, roasted potatoes, and a weirdly competent kale salad Dad claimed he learned to make from YouTube. We talked about FreeRoamer, about Haley's new community travel project, even about a student in Detroit who got a passport for the first time and cried when he held it. And then, after the plates were cleared and the air turned still, Mom looked at me and said, "I owe you more than I can say." I didn't interrupt her. I wanted to hear it. I thought I was being fair. I really did. But I confused loudness for confidence. "You were always so quiet, I thought you didn't need anything." Her voice cracked. "But you needed us. And we failed you." Dad cleared his throat. "I don't know how to apologize for decades. But I'm here. And I'll keep being here until it means something." I sat there, hands folded, heartbeat slow. And for the first time, I believed them. Not because they said the right things, but because they didn't ask for anything in return. I told them about Berlin. About meeting Lena. About our pilot school in Austin. I told them about the hostel with bunk beds made of scaffolding, and the speech I gave to a room full of VCs who wore sneakers that cost more than my first laptop. And when I said, "I'm not asking for your approval anymore," they both nodded. "We're just glad you're letting us listen now," Dad said. We didn't hug. That wasn't us. But Mom touched my hand when she passed the dessert, and for once, it didn't feel like a performance. It felt like history cracking open a window. Later, as Haley and I stood outside waiting for our rides, she bumped my shoulder. "Do you think we'll ever really be normal?" I snorted. "Hell no. But I'll take honest over normal any day." Her Uber pulled up. She left. I stayed for a moment, looking at the house. The porch. The place where everything had started and where, strangely, nothing had ended. Then I walked to my car. My own car. Bought with startup equity, not guilt money. I drove home in silence. No music. Just the sound of the world moving forward. It was exactly 1 year to the day since I walked out of that house with a $10 Starbucks gift card in my hand and not a single plan in my head. A year since I ghosted every family text thread, left my job at the campus IT desk, and put everything I had, emotionally, financially, physically, into building something from scratch. Something that wasn't about proving I was good enough for their approval, but about creating a world where people like me never had to beg for it in the first place. Now, I was standing backstage at the Global Education Equity Summit in San Francisco, wearing a borrowed blazer and holding a clicker for my keynote presentation. Behind me was a screen that read, "Free Roamer, Rewriting Access to the World." In front of me? 2,000 educators, policy makers, nonprofit leaders, and scholarship donors. Among them, in the third row from the front, sat Haley. Next to her were my parents. And this time, they weren't clapping because it was socially expected. They were clapping because they'd finally understood who I was, what I'd done, and why I'd had to walk away to do it. The lights dimmed. My cue. I walked on stage to the sound of real applause, not the slow, polite kind you get at awkward family dinners, but full-throated, "Who the hell is this kid?" applause. I smiled. Clicked the first slide. And I told my story. Not with bitterness. Not with rage. But with something much more dangerous, truth. I told them about the night of the cruise party. About the silence. The card. The motel. The platform. The first 7 students. The 700 after them. I told them how Freeroamer didn't start with money, it started with spite and hope sharing a futon. And how sometimes spite will take you further than ambition ever could. They laughed. They clapped. Some cried. After the speech, someone from Forbes asked to interview me for their Under 30 series. A woman from the Department of Education handed me her card and said, "We need this in every high school." And a 12-year-old girl with braces came up to me, holding a Freeroamer tote bag she'd won in a raffle, and whispered, "I want to be like you." That's when I cried. Quietly, behind the curtain. Not because I was overwhelmed, but because I finally understood something that had haunted me my entire life. I was never hard to love. I was just inconvenient to see. That night, we had dinner at a small restaurant in the Mission District. Just me, Haley, my parents, and our program director, Ty, who ordered a steak the size of a laptop and somehow got away with it. There were no big speeches, no checkbooks, no mentions of past failures. Just food, stories, and the gentle sound of a family trying, finally, to speak to each other like human beings, not characters in a script. At one point, Dad raised his glass and said, "To Nate, who built a plane out of a coffee card and flew farther than we ever imagined." I didn't toast back. I just smiled. That was enough. Later, back at my apartment, I sat in my tiny living room, no longer a borrowed space or a friend's couch, but mine, and looked at the corkboard above my desk. It had everything: our first grant check, photos of our students abroad, the Berlin contract, the podcast feature, a quote from that first blog post I wrote. "We deserve more than gratitude. We deserve opportunity." And right in the center, pinned with a red pushpin, was that original $10 Starbucks card. The corners were bent. The ink was faded. But it was still there. I thought about throwing it out. About finally moving on. But then I realized, no. It belonged there. Not as a grudge. Not as a scar. But as a trophy. That card wasn't a slight anymore. It was proof. Proof that you can be forgotten, ignored, dismissed, and still find a way to matter. That you can build a legacy not from applause, but from absence. That what starts as rejection can become revolution, if you're stubborn enough to believe your worth doesn't come stamped with a price tag. In the months that followed, Freeroamer expanded to 6 more countries. We launched a mobile app. Haley's local chapter model took off, and she was invited to speak at a youth nonprofit summit in Toronto. She called me after her talk, voice shaking, and said, "I get it now. I really do." Mom started volunteering with a mentorship org. Dad still struggled to express things without sounding like a project manager, but he tried. He read every Freeroamer newsletter, even the boring ones about logistics. And once he sent me a 3-word text that I screenshotted and kept. Proud. Every day. But the best moment? It came a little later. I was visiting a partner school in New Jersey, doing a Q&A with some seniors. A shy kid in the back raised his hand and said, "What do you do when the people who are supposed to believe in you don't?" I took a breath, looked around, and said, "You stop trying to fit into rooms where the ceiling is made of their expectations. You build your own damn building." The room went quiet. Then they clapped. And somewhere, beneath the applause, I swore I could hear my past letting go of me. Like a rope finally unknotted. Like the silence after a storm. I walked out of that school and into the sunlight, shoulders back, phone off, nothing buzzing except my pulse. I didn't vanish to escape. I vanished to begin. And now? I'm just getting started.